like to open the meeting of the Eastham Zoning Task Force. We are doing this meeting, this is a hybrid meeting. We have both online and in-person participation here. And it will be recorded and will be available at the town website. So with that, Jackie, have you met everyone? I have. Okay, great. Well, so welcome. Jackie, actually Jackie a couple weeks back, and he's gonna throw in the deep end of the pool right away to say, can you please edit and evaluate and do this? So we're delighted she's here in office. Sort of a partner trying to kind of get through this stuff. Yeah. So, let me just do some two up because we gotta get into the meat of this thing. The goal today is, and we will talk about the schedule in a second. The goal today is to, especially substantively, the draft you have before you. I don't know if you were able to incorporate Pat's edits.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent an email last night, Paul.
Yes, I didn't get.
So there's a lot of, there's grammatical things that we have to clean up here. So, and we welcome the next few days, any highlights of grammatical things. I think today the goal would be, can we get to the report, which sort of summarizes at a high level our recommendation, as well as kind of give a nod to both the zoning bylaw as well as the guidelines. You know, I preface this all by saying we're going to have an extensive, when we see the schedule, an extensive public process. So I'm at the point where I feel comfortable that we can justify every recommendation, but every recommendation may not prevail, and as we get into conversations, things will change. And so I'm sort of at a point where this doesn't necessarily have to be the most perfect recommendation in the world, because we're gonna have 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And inevitably, wherever it's coming from, we will get some pushback or some whatever. So again, those 3 documents, I'm hoping we can get to some sort of consensus. Certainly, we get these in final form. We can circulate everything around one last time if someone wants to raise their hand and say, I'm concerned, or I see an error, but we'll do one circulation, but we won't necessarily need. What I told the select board is just after the first of the year, it was like a little bit, but just after the first of the year, we will be circulating these documents. And I thought that, and we need, at the end of this meeting, we can talk a little bit more about marketing and some of that stuff. So I'm, you know, since we're at the 18th of September, we're 19. We don't have that much time.
17. Oh, we got lots of time.
So that's where we are now. Is it worthwhile to talk about the schedule? Right now, I don't want to run out of time enough. Do you have, did everyone get copies of this?
Yep.
You did, okay. So, we're gonna have a big workshop on the 21st. Do you have any idea how many people can attend? I know we've got a majority of the select board, and people around 15 or 16. It's not very low, given the number of groups.
Select board, planning board, zoning board.
It's not called conservation.
We try to do that, but we can, they're welcome to attend.
Okay.
Yeah. There's gonna be too much. Frankly.
Yes, I understand. So again, after that workshop, we'll get lots of feedback, I'm sure. And then pretty much every week after that, we've got a board of health presentation, finance committee presentation, conservation commission. We are looking at some dates for a more public forum. Jackie, as a mother of elementary school kids, really gave us some good insights in terms of a constituency of young parents who really want to hear this information. You know, and she pointed out appropriately that the build out of this is actually going to benefit the elementary school kids,
Right.
Because we're talking about a 10 or 15-year horizon for this, and getting those parents involved. And they've successfully done some meetings, parents' involvement, but it's also been coordinated with the recreation department, so there's childcare available. So we're gonna try, make an attempt to, yeah, and food, and pizza, childcare and pizza. So we're gonna make an attempt to, pause looking at recreation, to try to finalize a date and see if we can get the most accommodating meeting so that we get all of those people there. I think are we penciled in definitely for the big commission on the 27th?
I have not gotten
We
confirmation.
requested that one. Okay, and that's a big one, obviously. And then, and I've said to Paul, my preference would be to then go to the planning board and then the select board after that. For the warrant approval. There's a couple things with the select board schedule. We may end up with them before the planning board and they can vote contingent on the planning board. I think it's a little funky. So we're gonna try to keep working with that. Then we're gonna get it on the warrant, and then in April, the Council of Aging has asked for a presentation. So, we'll have that, and then there's a pre-town meeting. So, actually doing a COA, yeah. So the COA, I think the parents are two really good constituencies to get out. So any event, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 9 public presentations, hopefully we will have.
What's the pathway for, changes and updates after each experience?
Well,
Where's the cutoff that, at the board of selectmen, at some point, we're gonna say, this is what we're doing.
it's going to be a little organic, like last time, I mean, when we did development limits, we went to the joint workshop and surprising, I was shocked that the feedback was, these houses are too big, we can change them. And we quickly regrouped, because there's a lot of calculation that went into that. We had to quickly regroup and rerun numbers to come up with a new proposal. So in that case, we sort of met within 5 or 6 days, we posted everything that and got those changes made. I guess the nature of them is going to be, as we get feedback, do we sort of keep these cumulatively and then regroup as a group to say, okay, what do we want to come back with? So there will be, and that does suggest that we probably should align some task force meetings too, so that we're penciled in to have a meeting coming up, so if we have to prepare something. And the likelihood of changes really comes out in the workshop, when you have select one, then
Right, definitely need to have a feedback cycle after that.
the feedback after that. Has not been sufficient to recommend significant changes. The cutoff date for the warrant, article, printing, first printer, yeah. So nothing else is, that's the main.
Yeah, and I mean, we can still, we by no means want to do this, but just, even if there was something, some fatal clause, we can amend it.
We have definitely done that.
Don't want to do that,
Yeah.
but just even if we, it's gone with the printer and we find out, oh, we gotta do this.
Well, I was just thinking from the, you're gonna have these different groups of town, not so much the big plan, but when you're meeting with the parents, are we saying, here's the document we're bringing to town, we want to bring up to speed on it, or we're letting, that there's still time to input.
Well, it's comments. I mean,
Yeah.
we're advisory, we're making recommendations. So basically, at the end of the day, the planning board and town, the select board basically can ask us to make changes.
Yeah.
We need that.
And the public meetings are intended to be for public comment. So, and there could be comments that are ideas or issues that we haven't thought about or heard.
That's why I
And-
brought
yeah.
the whole topic up.
Yeah.
Is there
possible.
time in that?
Oh, yeah,
space to
Yeah,
make-
I mean, we had moved, like, for example, with the, last year with the, short-term rentals. I mean, given that there was only like 5 or 6 cottage colonies and we had really good knowledge on a couple, we we just didn't think the recommendations were gonna have an impact, and suddenly the ownership structure of the cottage colonies raised its head, and we had to. We're gonna make a quick change on that, so.
Yeah.
There may be something else like that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Which of, besides the workshop and the public meeting at the library, are there any of those other meetings that you would like to have one or two of the task force members?
Anyone, we will get this. We'll put our task force meetings in, we have to do that,
Right.
and I would encourage everyone, I mean, I would,
I mean, there's sort of, is representation a helpful thing is what I'm,
I always think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to acknowledge everyone participating, and you each bring, I mean, I bring the three of you between DPA planning and the affordable housing, you know, I think it's really appropriate.
and planning too.
And planning. Sorry, I went down. I mean, so I mean.
Out, out on the bleachers here.
Yeah, you know. Love
Okay,
that, encourage that, so. All right, logistics, we're pretty much, oh, and before we leave here today, let's talk about, and the one other thing I want to talk about, I think we should put task force meetings in here. And if we're not ready, I know we've had some scheduling challenges with Tuesday, so is that still a scheduling challenge? Yeah, okay, so then we can figure out.
Rest of my life and the rest of it.
That's all right, that's all right.
it's a joyous,
Basically, you're at a point now where before we bring people on, we are all basically retirees with other activities, and so there's no requirement to meet for the
Right,
yeah.
right.
you know, we could meet, if Tuesdays is the open day, potentially meet
Uh,
Tuesday mornings.
Yeah,
So,
as long as it's not 7:30.
so we should get the schedule out. Okay, so, as I said, Pat has given us a great, grammatical editing kind of thing. I'm thinking we should go through, which ones do we want to go through? The report first, bylaw, the guidelines?
Well, I was thinking the report, I mean, we've been working with the guidelines, so I'm not sure, you know, I have everything, we can go through with the other documents, but
Okay,
everyone should put it.
Yeah, I think the report,
okay. So why don't we, and again, if you wanna, as opposed to just making this all about commas and grammar and
No.
capitalization, if we could go through this and as we go through sections, if you have a substantive comment about
right.
something that we can.
I was going to offer, after you make whatever change, if you'd like, I can go through and do a grammar punctuation edit too,
Sure.
but I thought I'd just do that on a piece of paper and you can use it as you want or not, Paul.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm all for getting
I'm
the
gonna
grammar
just say
correct.
for the record, Jackie is, what is.
Former high school English teacher.
Oh, well
I do
then-
have red pens upstairs.
Oh, good.
Enough.
All right.
Anyone need want a hard copy of it?
If you have one, I would love one.
I got black and white backs.
That's fine. That's awesome. Thank you.
All right.
I think,
You wanna go section by section?
yeah, well, I think it would be good if you want to actually just. Good for all of us to understand how this all links in, because that was the thing that struck me. Got all the kind of summary data, but referencing the supporting document, this is all meshing together. I think that's going to be a strong talking point. At these presentations, well talking.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Well, I will say, I don't have it with me. I spent maybe a whole evening trying to draw, I wanted to draw a graphic. I wanted a sketchy graphic and then someone really draw it, but I wanted to get a graphic because the issues here is this interrelations and interdependencies. You know, if you think about the economic cycle, what's the challenges for business? There's workforce and year-round residents. What's the challenge for the residents?
Mhm.
There's affordability. All of these things sort of interplay, and I was trying to come up with a great graphic that would show the interconnection of this. Didn't get there, but I tried to summarize all of the reports. And if we start with the overview, you know, I think. I think one of the things when I went back to the guidelines is. There's about 50-60% of the existing DCPC we didn't touch. So, it's not like we started from whole cloth. The intent and strategy within all those 6 districts, we didn't touch that. Many of the principles we didn't touch. So why did we touch certain things? Well, the document DCPC in 2017 was written virtually before about half a dozen planning documents the town is now working with were even in place. And secondly, the district no longer aligned. For example, any version of tea time with the housing division could not be accommodated under the current zoning. So there's certain things we had to change there. Are we feeling comfortable, strategically, the critical needs and goals, walkable towns?
Mary, as you go through this, just tell us what page you're on.
Oh,
So you on 3 now?
I'm just on overview. Yeah.
Page 3.
Page 3. Oh, you did edge it. I'm on page 3. So, we've laid out some strategic goals for this. This we actually talked about because we had these goals. Last winter, we actually did this, but I just want to be sure. Some of them got a bit further along.
The only thing I would say about these is, and it's just a style thing. The first thing is the walkable town center to
Yep.
support a year-round community. If people read these in order of priority, is that the most important one?
Well, I think that if the TCPC is a business district,
Right.
I might say that would be the most important.
I'm not disagreeing necessarily, but
Just with
I'm
the-
just thinking about how people will read it.
That's fine.
Okay.
Affordable housing right there.
Yeah,
accessible.
no. I'm okay with it.
Just to back up on the 3rd paragraph.
Yeah.
We have the line that says, and this, we're talking about the town has an advantage by owning all this property that they're developing.
Yeah.
And when we say, in this first to market position, the town can demonstrate optimal design standards. That implies that the town is potentially the potential developer here. And I don't think that's the expectation. I think that what we should say, this gives the town the ability to partner.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the opinion, the expectation is that we find a developer that we can work with and that they're going to
well, I
be
think,
the first to break ground on these rules.
I agree, we're not trying to imply that. I think the imposition or the first to market position is referencing the fact that the town is going to issue an RFP. And my understanding with all the analysis that's going on is that the RFP is going to be somewhat specific in terms of the goals it wants, not being.
Housing units. and
Yeah,
streetscapes and
yeah,
stuff.
so that was to me, that positioning there, but if it's reading to people that.
I
the
was
town
I
is
was
a
trying the
developer,
same thing as you were. I was trying to read it as an average citizen reading it
Yeah.
for the first time. When I read that sentence, I was like, oh, did we really? No, we're not the first to market. First to market means that you're the developer, first one to develop this property. Anyway, it's a minor point. To me, it read as if we were gonna be the developer.
oh,
Well, I think it says stimulate additional private development throughout the district, but the word additional perhaps does imply.
But I read the whole sentence. I'm just saying, when I
Yeah.
read the sentence, I'm moving on, I'm like, oh, we're not gonna be developing this property. And
Right.
That's why I brought the note up. And if
So
I
the
thought that, people that are involved are gonna. think that.
No, it's funny you mentioned that, because I didn't read it that way. I guess I read through that. And maybe it's the prior knowledge that town owns the property now. It's just a big advantage to the sense that we're hoping that someone who owns this parcel over here might want to do something, which that's part of this too. But I didn't take it that way as far as the developer goes. Just we have an advantage here because we do own the property.
Yeah.
And maybe have saved a step, perhaps sped the process up for that particular parcel because you don't have to negotiate a purchase price. I mean, you're gonna buy it from the town. I mean, it's not the same thing as going out and having a third party involved with it. So it took it.
the intent behind that was. And again, I was thinking of the concept of the cost in the translation. We have, the whole district is pre-existing non-conforming. And if we anticipate the conflicts or the challenges and struggles that might happen as developments get confused, it's going to be how much are existing owners of pre-existing non-conforming, what the triggers that would require them to conform to these visions. And so my only point was saying, the town is gonna be probably the first one out.
I like the
making-
sentence, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, no, I like the topic, they're just saying, we're gonna be the.
So it's sort of like prove the concept, like if the town can go out with an RFP and this housing and this commercial development and is demonstrated architecturally and economically and whatever they've built. That's sort of like, you can put off the naysayers to say, this is a model that can work. But, so do you have an amendment that could just?
The first question someone's gonna have is, how much money are you gonna come to us for next year? To be first part.
Okay.
I just think that we need something, a sentence ahead of us saying, as we go out to RFP,
Town, as it,
as we see a development partner.
as it seeks either a development partnership with.
And that's just what you have.
Yeah, you
Development
can,
partnership.
you can figure it out, because I do think that some people who live here think that the town is completely driving the bus,
Yeah.
and they're not thinking about private development.
Right,
So-
exactly. Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's good. So let's make it in it there. Okay. Any other comments on the overview section in terms of setting this up?
No.
Okay. Then we go to page 4. I wish I could have elaborated this a little more. I love the likeness of work and play.
Mhm.
It's from a slogan kind of point of view. This is my best shot at articulating that.
Mhm.
Any comments, district,
It's good.
did you have a comment? Pat?
Nope.
No, good.
DCPC, this is all sort of the background of what it is, who it is, DC amending regulations. That,
Mhm.
pretty clear. Pre-existing non-conforming. This is like, who's the audience? We really want to begin, and we need to spend a good amount of time at the workshop with planning and CBA boards. To,
I have a,
okay,
small issue that's across all the documents.
okay,
Is that every time we list out the, core commercial, transitional commercial, and then commercial, we're doing them in different orders. So between the bylaw.
Right.
This report, and these tables, they're all in different orders. So when I'm 3 pages down on the table,
yeah.
I expect the third column to be this third thing. Or is it this third thing, or is it this third thing?
Yeah.
And every time I come by, all 3 documents are inconsistent.
well, I think we were trying to make this, the bylaw start with core transitional.
Yeah,
No, it doesn't. The bylaw says core and office. And
yeah, that needs to be clean.
Okay,
To clean up.
The tables are tough because the tables are gonna be a lot of that, right? Fix that.
okay, let's do
Yeah,
that.
but I can, that's been on the list. to keep
Oh,
together.
sorry.
Jackie can help do that.
Yeah, so that they're all listed. Yeah.
And I think the notion of the strategy of is that core, and then you sort of step down as you go out.
And then the trade park always should be there.
You think Trace Park should be at the end?
Yes, it's trade park is,
Yeah.
because you're going with density
It's a
and then you're
different-
going less density, so I can say, oh, here's a walking center where I can park my car and
Okay.
walk to the store, the next one is I pull up in front of the CVS or whatever. And trade park is a different nature, so I think it should always.
Yeah.
Go to the end.
Okay. On page 7, the third paragraph, the bold sentence, there are no mandated changes required for existing businesses to continue in their current state. I don't think that's what, to continue in their current state, I don't think that's what you mean. I think you mean if they continue in their current, if the business just continues, there's no required changes.
Yes.
This is saying there's no business, it reads awkwardly to me.
That's funny, I put 2 check marks, so I think I agree with that sentence.
I agree with the
So
principle.
I said there are no mandated changes required for existing businesses to continue in their current state.
And I think the intent of that is to say,
Yeah,
if you're
Existing
there now,
businesses-
you're not forced to do.
I think instead of 2,
I
it's
didn't
that.
think of it until you just said that
That
is,
continue, that continue.
You know, further up on this powers test, in what I sent to Paul and Mary, I went looking to see if it was power with an S or without an S. And I came up with without looking for it, I came up with another date. So it's in your notes, Paul, to just check the date.
1978,
Yeah, I came up with 1973,
okay.
and it's powers with an S.
We were trying to figure out, what the legal basis for that, we came across a briefing that a lawyer had done for all their clients, that said, this thing, this is
Right.
litigated,
Yeah, it was.
okay. All right, you can make those two changes. Moving on, that,
That,
those two to that.
is it that or which? It's a Jackie question.
Right.
Task force methodology and considerations.
So on the italicized thing about who went, I don't know if there were other individuals there, but I was there not representing anyone. So I
Mhm.
thought it would be nice to have, including local residents and representatives from. Because not every, I mean, to my knowledge, not everyone was representing
Something.
something.
Which paragraph you on now?
On
Just
page
below
8,
Page 8.
the italicized after the numbers of events. I would just add by 35 individuals, including local residents and representatives from the, and then all that.
Any other comments on the methodology considerations? Okay, then we have we did an outline of the market study and the housing production plan. On the market study, does anyone have any comment? On the bullets for the analysis?
I like the topic about the retail leakage. I think that's a strong point. Response. Well, I think that's probably fine.
I mean, to be honest, I'm lifting these things from the plan.
Right.
So I wasn't doing.
Right. That's what I assumed.
I mean, but
And that's good because someone reading it
can go
right back to the plan.
Um,
Page 10, the third paragraph. There are two additional markets that we took into consideration. Market for services, primarily formula restaurants and retail. Is that implying that we want formula restaurants?
No, I mean, it was the discussion we had. That was the meeting we had in police department.
Right.
Space, so I know we were there, and we talked about these markets, and then. So that's why the paragraph after that ties to that paragraph.
Right.
Right.
That you were identifying that we were a target community for people who open up formula businesses.
Okay.
That's a market for it, but we don't want to satisfy that market.
Yeah, I mean, the market study itself is very descriptive around, they just went a little bit into Wellfleet, not even into the town center, just like Maurice's and over the line kind of thing. And they went a little bit like towards, say, Stop and Shop and Maurice. But it was 90%
Right.
of it was East Ham. So that's what they used for the demographic data to generate this
Yeah.
the last paragraph in that section, won't say second market, it was saying East Hampton is comparatively affordable. I want to change that, is or was.
Comparatively, was the operative word. It's
Yeah.
not that we are affordable, it's that.
We use that.
We're still
Well,
the cheapest game in
Oh,
town,
we
but we're still cost too
on
much.
the outer cape, but
Right.
we're not affordable, you know, but. My point there was to say. Not that we're affordable, but we're still attractive for investors. We're a couple $100,000 under the median. I think Wellesley's median is like 9 something. Girls is even more than that. So. All right, moving on, housing production plan. Do you have any?
No, I thought you
comments?
captured the salient points.
Second to last bullet, the other bullets, the bottom 4 bullets, you say between 2000 and 2021. 21 year, we're talking about how much property rose. And then on the last bullet, you say that since 2000, the residents declined. The bullet, the second to last bullet doesn't have a time frame with it. I think when I'm reading it, I understand you're probably talking about the 20-year period, but East Hampton age and median age rose from 47 to 59.
And that's when the 2020 census.
Right.
That was the 2020
So-
census data. Because the report got updated, so we could just, I mean, we could parens that 2020 census.
I think you're saying
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm saying.
range,
And you called out
2000
on-
to-
on bullets before, the bullet after.
Yeah.
We all know what you mean, but
And then we go over, and we start, we're still on housing, but we're introducing the notion of different housing types.
Mhm.
I think the whole topic that was great.
And I love the illustrations because, you know,
Mhm.
anything beyond a single family home, people sometimes get irrational about what would look like.
Mhm.
This all feels,
Well, help me with this one. Cause I went along, I got the ADU, I got the duplex, I got the cottage. I didn't get the micro unit. Where is it?
with the micro units,
Yeah.
ADU duplex,
Cottage.
cottage. But there's no micro, we don't have micro in there. You've got,
I might have.
So if you look at the second and the fourth, those are, as far as drawings, are somewhat interchangeable to me, they both look like,
Yeah,
one's a duplex.
Well, I think the second from the right, that's the micro unit. It looks like
Right.
one house,
That's
but
right.
it's actually 4 units,
Second.
small units, right?
okay.
And then
It's
the
hard to
manor
tell
house.
this versus a floor plan diagram.
Mhm.
All right.
um. Then we go on to summarize wastewater, transportation planning, northeastern corridor plans.
The Route 6.
Yeah.
I thought that it would be useful to have a sentence in here about who controls Route 6.
Mhm.
That would be correct. Because you could actually speak to, I mean. Actually, one of the major things underpinning all of this planning is the fact that we're like the only town that has a 4-lane highway running through Main Street, right?
Mhm.
And we don't control that. road.
Yeah, and we don't talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people who live here know that, but it does impact development because we don't control DOT.
Right. And are both of these cross sections, are these in the proposed plan that we've submitted to DOT?
We haven't submitted anything official, these have been vetted, and these are the concepts that have been vetted with staff and select board. So
Okay.
This is what we're gonna be presenting.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. We should specify, we can work on a sentence, Jack, I think we can do a sentence there that we. 4-lane highway. I mean, I think we should probably put that out there, a major challenge.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's the challenge.
Major challenge. That we don't.
Right.
the Northeastern corridor plan.
Mhm.
So I did talk to Peter Winters on the designs, gonna have some for next week.
Okay.
Plans, he said. So,
Okay.
this is just a
Placeholder.
clip.
Okay.
I think like we should have street name, like bracket should be identified.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, I gave it, I said Bracket Road and the corridor road, even with the signs to 2 times, just to give people an orientation.
Mhm.
I just said we could put a, you know. Um. Moving over, the financial analysis, is there a timeline for when that might be?
I'm not sure yet. I know, for the select board meeting last night, Jack put in a note in her staff for staff report that.
All right, that'd be really helpful. I've seen some preliminary analysis. Which the high consultants to tell you what you already know, which is the kind of housing, any level of housing, given the challenges of commercial development, is going to require substantial subsidies. Whether it's the town, the state, the heads, whoever. The notion that puts us out as an RFP and meet any of the other affordability goals or scaling goals is not realistic.
Right.
But it would be very important for that to be out there.
Right.
Said. And then we have developer feedback of the developers and the local businesses.
Yeah,
We should say,
on this. Just switch. Cause we do developers and then business. Just make sure. That whatever's up at the top follows through at the bottom.
yeah, so let's make the title, we should put local business and developers. And then maybe switch and have the local businesses up first. Yeah. Just- Right, keep going, just shout out anything that I'm concerned about. I'm starting on the task force recommendations. There's sort of an introductory page here, which goes back to, is the criteria. What we sort of flesh out more of the goals that we're trying to achieve. These recommendations, and then a little introduction of form-based code, which is difficult concept. But anything on the introduction page?
It just, the second paragraph under form-based. The paragraph under form-based zoning code overview, the last sentence. It's a long sentence and it's got 2. I'm sorry, Paul, I'm
I beat him up on that and he won. I said,
I-
Cory,
No,
you want that?
no.
one?" I said,
She let me.
I
No.
edited that one. too.
I no, you're not winning.
Fine, fine.
There are 2 really important concepts in there, and by combining them in one sentence, you don't give them their due, is what I'm trying to say. You know, think about the average person trying to
Yep,
read
yep.
this. And that, Jackie, that's, well, I'll wait.
That's important.
Yeah, it is, particularly because streamlining the regulatory process, it's a critical issue. Advantage for people who wanting to make changes.
I don't, I thought it was,
So,
Yeah.
do you have a
Pat, did
proposal?
you-
Do you have a
did you
specific-
have
No,
a comment?
I rewrote it.
Okay, so.
Good.
Your comment and let Jackie,
Yeah.
and we'll communicate.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Alright. Summary of recommended changes to the zoning district, this is really moving the boxes.
So spell Bracket Road correctly. And that second
Yeah.
thing, that second
Yeah.
graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And up on the top.
Alright. Moving on, use table.
Oh, wait a minute, I have to back up.
But
A couple of pages back, we defined what form-based codes are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And way in the beginning on page 3, we mentioned form-based code, but we don't define it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that it would be good to define it back on page 3. Maybe even with a little footnote or something, just because that description is so good down at the back. So,
It's good, yeah. Maybe we could put a footnote or something, because again, that, we have a
Yeah.
lot in that sentence, but
Mhm.
maybe we could asterisk and, you know. That,
yeah, just that one sentence that's down in page 16 is nice.
all right. Use table, architectural standards,
On bullet point number 3 under use table, you got the word incentive. I think you want incentivize.
yeah.
On page 19, if you're ready for,
Parking and transportation.
um, again, the bottom diagram. Hopefully in the area, we're not gonna have a parking lot anywhere near that size. And I think that's gonna be off-putting to people. I know it's there to try and talk about landscaping and how that could look, but I think,
Maybe it's, first of all, it's the only one we could find that illustrates.
I know.
This. Do you think we could footnote this, we could have a comment underneath saying the diagram is a illustrative of landscape standards, but not.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, this isn't ideal, but it's not inconceivable that we're gonna have a large park. Because we're gonna have shared, actually, we want shared parking, which may entail, you know.
Yeah.
By large. It's all relative.
but this
We
is,
don't want a huge stop and shop, size
Right.
parking. But we will have larger parking here, especially if we do shared parking. You could have someone who's going through, if the whole Main Street concept happens, and someone's got a split lot. They may wanna convert the back half of the lot to
Right.
rental and then work to deal with everybody.
I agree with that.
So I agree, this is not ideal. We did talk about this.
We
graphic
did.
a lot. I think we settled that it wasn't ideal, but the purpose was to show the components.
Okay,
I would say if Jack and I come across a better graphic between now and when this thing goes to the printer, we'll put it in.
okay.
Can you cut and paste this one, or just cut off the bottom
Just-
row to below left one?
Because this has like 120 parking spaces.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And I've.
Let's
I'm-
either say new picture or detailed.
I mean, we don't have to use this
Footnote that
picture
says
either.
something.
I mean,
Well-
for the report.
I was trying to say that I think for, again, certain constituencies, we have a lot of parking lot, we don't have medians and trees and landscaping.
Right,
We'll look through it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I honestly agree with you. I don't like this graphic. I never
I
have.
know.
I'd rather find some better for the bylaw. This isn't a bylaw, so we can find some better for the bylaw.
Right. okay, thank you.
Under the parking and transportation, the 5th bullet point, this starts off proposed the build out of homes early. Do you want to say propose as opposed to proposed? I read that out. So
I know. I'm relying on Jackie.
Many eyes. Summary, I'm moving on, landscape standards. Just the orientation of this graphic. I mean, I think there are better graphics than this, but is there a reason it's not straight?
That's just the way it is in the bylaw.
Yeah,
That's what's. Any other-
no.
It's kind of funny, but
Yeah, no.
Mhm.
Okay, environmental standards, lighting, signage, formula business, any comment there? All right, Now we're at,
Oh, just one,
the-
I'm sorry, under regulatory process.
Yep.
Would that be a good place to have another bullet that says that the use of form-based code will help streamline the process? That's one comment. I don't know if it belongs there or not, so that's
Well,
fine.
maybe a related one. We've put in the fact, we've changed it so that all projects
Yes,
need to have an administrative review before they go to the planning and ZBA.
and that was gonna be my other comment.
And
Highlight
I
that.
think that is, I mean, we think that's gonna be a way of people hearing the rules, understanding the rules up front. In my mind, it's like not designing something that's totally incompatible, and then you can put a planning board where it, you know, the applicants say, but I already spent $100,000 on architectural designs and I'm gonna make it back to.
Right.
It's like a war you're trying
So,
to.
Yeah.
so I'm trying to, you know, I think the notion of you're gonna sit down with Paul and go through your whole project and hear something, you come back with something totally contrary to zoning,
Right.
you know, so I think.
Yeah, I thought I had that in earlier. Had a bullet.
I think that's important.
When we look at the third bullet there. Regulatory process. When we say new requirements, it defines minimum standards for any site improvements. If I'm a property owner and my parking lot's full of potholes, I'm gonna be afraid to fix my potholes. I'm gonna be afraid I'm not
Right.
apply and trees, put sidewalks, crosswalks. But I want to fix my walkway, if I want to do something.
Is there a distinction between repair and development?
I'm saying any site,
Well, wait, are you talking? You're talking about the second bullet.
yes.
Second
Yeah,
bullet.
so I think it does need a sentence at the end, because that's, what that means is it's for projects that are gonna trigger cycling, not for pothole, maintenance of your team.
Right.
So you put a sentence that qualifies.
I'm just trying to read it as.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's a good catch. I think, I wanted to stop on the 4%. Because this is something. This is gonna be kind of significant.
Yes.
So this is where I'm gonna have to look. I brought this up for months, to just get some pre-existing
Mhm.
issue and difficulties that I have. I didn't really have a good solution. It's just always, I always say, we're gonna get some little projects.
Mhm.
It's just, so in the bylaw. I changed that chart, so we have a chart that says. These are the triggers, thresholds for different minor, major, special
Mhm.
permit. I basically made it so that it reads those minimums for the pre-existing non-conforming, which was like. If you have such and such square foot of landscaping
Mhm.
and you don't have more than one curb cut and you don't have, you have all of these pre-qualifications, you don't need to go to site plan. You gotta wait.
Right.
I took all that same language and made it like, those are mandatory prerequisites, so it's just. You still have to go to minor, major, or special permit, but you don't go anywhere unless you have. those things.
Trigger one of
Yeah,
those
yeah,
triggers.
yeah. So you
Right.
basically have, if you don't have the 20-foot minimum landscaping along the frontage, you have to do it, or you're not gonna get your approval. If you have more than one curb cut and you're doing something that it's gonna require major site plan review, you're gonna have to figure out how to do something with that curb cut. So this is gonna affect people. Because before there was a kind of a way to depend, you could massage your project and say, well, I'm not willing to park with any of my parking, I need every last space, so this is basically gonna be a harder line. You're gonna have to figure a way to reduce your parking somewhat, or do whatever it is, depending on what the nature of the project is, so. And the reason I did that is because struggling to get people to get the changes, to make the changes, but it's gonna, some projects, they're gonna be like, I'm not gonna do it because I gotta.
Right.
but I will say. There'll still be this thing where, okay. It says in the bylaw I have to reduce the parking. All right, I'll get rid of one spot. And so we're gonna have these issues where it's okay,
Mhm.
you know. And so it doesn't, and the whole reason I went into this. I bring this up is because it sets up some subjective. Judgment calls,
Mhm.
especially for things that are gonna be minor site plan, which don't go to the planning board. Now, as staff, we always reserve the right to say, I'm not making this call. They'll send you the planning and zoning board.
Right.
But don't necessarily want to do that, so, because the whole point is, you have a minor site plan for small projects, we don't have to spend a lot of money, it allows you to do your own, you know, we're not gonna make you get an official site plan, you don't have one, spend all this money. It's a small project, it's patio project, I would say, little patio in, it's big tables. But if, you know,
Will that trigger a small patio of less than 100 square feet, will trigger all of the plans?
Provisions of it, we can have. zoning.
it's,
43.
yeah, so 43 is the table of regulatory review for new development, so in the current version, there's a table that says new development, and then there's a separate section that talks about if you're pre-existing non-conforming. It runs through all that, so. I took out the whole section, separate section of pre-existing non-conforming, folded it all into this one table, so this doesn't matter pre-existing, non-conforming, or brand new starts from scratch, you go to this table. If you happen to be pre-existing non-conforming, you're gonna go and look at this language here where it says structures and uses that do not conform to ECSD district wide standards must meet the following minimum criteria, and you go through and say, if I'm doing a project less than or equal to 500 square feet, I need to have only one defined curb cut on Route 6. I need to have at least 20 feet of landscaped area. I am not going to add any parking to the front, fully frontage zone. And then anything I'm actually doing, the actual project has to conform to all the design standards that are applicable. So, yeah, the patio, the new patio that's less than or equal to 500 square feet. That's what I'm gonna look to see, what's your curb cut situation, do you have that landscaping, and
Is it the one curb cut on Route 6 or like, would
landscape.
Sam's in on Bracket Road have to take out curb cut into that? They want.
well, it's not practical, the curb cut is just Route 6.
Route 6, okay.
Yeah, so if you don't have those, you have to, you don't meet those criteria, then you have to go to site plan review. Which that's, then you're gonna have to get a site plan to go out and get this whole thing out. So the
Right.
incentive is do these things. Figure out a way to lose a parking space. And add in some square footage of landscaping, if that's the thing that you're missing to do it, so that you don't have to go. Do a more formal, more rigorous. Planning process.
Can I take a recent project and ask you how it would fare? East Hampstead Bread recently did 1,500 square feet of interior renovation where they blew out the liquor store and the walk-in freezers, and we did a renovation. And their exterior was a new front door and front stairway. So they did minimal exterior, all interior. Does 1,500 square feet of totally interior renovation trigger? It does not trigger.
It's exterior
It's
construction,
just exterior, okay.
expansion of structure. That increases the building footprint
Okay.
or work to the site area.
Okay, so people can,
We don't, this,
people can do all their upgrades and renovations inside.
yeah, site
Yeah.
plan review doesn't curb your experience,
So what if
unless
somebody-
you're expanding.
What about repaving the parking lot? In front of, sanitary services? On Route 6.
It's, your skim coating,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When I had my kind of plating out on, I used to say that's maintenance. But if you're digging it all up and putting it in, if you're truly scraping the ground, then you do maintenance. You're gonna do that.
All right. Yeah, so if you were changing,
Might be adding, what if you're adding better drainage? Catch bases.
Or-
like that, going every 6 now.
well, what the threshold for that is if you are creating additional parking spaces or changing access to a firm Route 6 or changing the circulation pattern layout of the parking. You're just doing maintenance, so skin coating, restriping, putting drainage, we're not all anything. Way it's written out.
So it seems to me that we have a couple of things we're trying to communicate. And codify. One is to reassure current business owners that are pre-existing non-conforming. You can just keep doing what you're doing exactly as you're doing for as long as you want to do it without having to change anything. So there's no requirement to change anything for current business owners if they just keep doing what they're doing. And I think that's important to communicate.
Right, because we don't want to disincentivize.
But we don't want them to stand up at town meeting and say, I don't like this because you're gonna make me add trees, you know? So I think we need to be really clear that we're communicating for pre-existing non-conforming current businesses. If you're doing what you're doing, there's no change required. Okay, and then clear that we're implementing a required administrative review of any new projects. Right, that hasn't been there before. So it's like step one, you don't have to do anything. If you want to start to do something, you have an administrative review. And then talk about the the first bullet, the minor, major, et cetera. But I think we need to clearly communicate the two different things, that we're putting in new standards, and so new things will be required. But if you just keep doing what you're doing, we don't want the people to be confused to think that that's what they have to do, because then they're not going to be at all happy with
Well, I think
the
you said
changes.
that. I think what Paul's is raising, we talked a lot about this, is, you know, someone's gonna do a random development, the tea time, the town.
Yeah,
plaza,
That's
all clear.
different.
You're gonna do a patio and some maintenance, we're all clear. It's going to be, for example, we have pipe bonuses. Like, what if, and I don't know what it is, what if Ryan, what if it was now Bistro 5041 or whatever it is. What if they look at the height bonuses and say, hey, I'd like to add 2 stories to this, because I can throw a lot of apartments on this, but I'm not gonna do a front building, I'm not gonna do, I mean, it's,
Mhm.
people might
We're
look
gonna
at some,
look
the look posts and say, I'd like to really add this and that.
Mhm.
I mean, that's where the rubber's gonna hit the road here on,
Right.
on the triggers. But
Mhm.
And so I can break out in this regulatory process, the second bullet point. I think it needs a sentence that
Yeah.
says, you know, this is for projects going over the threshold for review. And I think I can add to that, you know.
The required to be-
Maintenance items.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The continued maintenance.
Mhm.
On that.
And then I'll add in the bullet points for the requirement for adding.
Mhm.
all right,
I think that would help.
I think we should, because we should expand, you could have critics being through and saying, ever since you put in the, you know, district. Things have gotten worse, you know, that Northeast camp looks worse now than it looked like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It's probably just. Get over and know the call there.
Well, I think you go back to development revamp about the cost of capital, the cost of construction, the lack of a market. I mean, that's why they kind of, I mean, you know, they, I mean, I, you know, I was just looking at the 46 units down in Wellfleet that just broke ground, that's $27 million project. There's no commercial development. I mean, we're talking about to redevelop these projects, especially on our mixed use. You're in tens of millions of dollars, which is why you're in public subsidies. So I think there's a, I think, the 50s model of building a small commercial development on the cheap and running it for a long time. That economics is kind of gone a long time ago. It's just gonna be for a lot of the existing property owners, whether they make decisions that they're gonna. The next generation wants to encourage that in the development or sell it.
No, I agree. No, I was just saying we should be prepared to push back on it. That
Yeah.
people say,
Yeah.
look, you came in here, you put these new regulations in, we froze development 6 years ago, and what did it get us? Things look worse now than it was 10 years ago. Yeah.
And I just,
This is DCPC, businesses say they are not doing it because they.
I mean, we haven't had all that many projects come forward. With this.
No.
Like I said, it's been just these little small things that, we just made it work for them, just. Other than, Tim Clay's project on.
Route
Hasn't
6.
started yet. I mean, that one came in and technically he met all the standards. Excuse was great, so other than that.
We actually had a fascinating meeting. I called him.
Matt?
And he was really interested in putting 6 top of the shop units on top of his warehouse down on Massasoit.
Mhm.
And Paul walked him through things and he said, well, here's the whole totality, you're gonna have to do some setbacks and landscaping, buffering. You can't just run a straight 100-foot wall, there's gonna have to be some articulation. He didn't, he wasn't like throwing his hands up, he was like, I'm trying to understand it, but the more interesting thing he said, he said, I'm doing projects all over the Outer Cape and Lower Cape, he said, and I didn't want to be in the rental housing business. He said, but it's very clear that that's what the future is. We're gonna have to figure this out. And then that got us onto a sideline that said, you don't have to construct an affordable housing entity. There's nonprofits, there's towns who partner around some of the aspects of managing this housing that,
Right.
You don't want to be necessarily in that business. But I just thought it was really interesting, not because of Eastham pushing it, but saying, I'm just looking at the market overall.
Right.
And that's where the future is going to be.
And was Cole's point about saying that's what the business is, or that's what I need to stay in business, that I need to have.
That's where
housing for my own.
That's where the towns collectively are looking to redevelopment. I mean, what we're doing here.
No, when you said, no, my point was when Cole, associates said, I didn't want to be in the rental business, but now I see that's the future, that's where it could be. Was he saying that because that's such a business opportunity, I could go out to make some money there, or for me to maintain my current construction business, I need to provide housing for my workers? Which of those paths was he?
It was a little bit of both. It was a little bit of both. The housing for workers was absolutely what was motivating him to think of top of the shop.
Yeah.
But he was also making a secondary thing that all the towns I'm working in, what their interest is rental housing,
Yeah.
this kind of mixed development. And therefore, if I want to participate in those developments,
Okay.
I've got to figure out,
As a builder,
as a builder,
not an investor.
my business model has not been rental housing.
Right,
That's what
okay,
I'm saying.
okay. I
As a
built
business
luxury
model,
homes.
I'm gonna have to reevaluate
Figure out how to build a house.
how I get in that model, and that's when we got on to sideline about. You don't have to become a nonprofit affordable housing developer. That's what you can partner. Now, he hasn't come back with a proposal. I'm just saying, this is a conversation, but it was illuminating to me that he was recognizing that market or that
Mhm.
trend.
But that's what the zoning bylaw is incentivizing, so.
Right.
If you're gonna be willing to get into that, you're gonna get the density bonus and the
Mhm.
height bonus to maximize the units. That's what heard that would be profitable. Developers can get
Mhm.
those units.
Eh,
Profitable for them
Right.
to build and.
And how to build up to scale the administrative side of that. The rental administrative side,
There's
that,
a, yeah,
yeah.
there's a consideration.
Right.
whether to do This or.
right,
Which is, I think the big divergence is, clearly go in, clear cut, build, do condos, sell, get out. Is what a lot of these buildings wanna do. This other stuff is like an ongoing.
Right.
Relationship, they have their hand in the development.
right.
But
I
Okay,
think to Martin's point about people thinking, so for 7 years, nothing much has happened and tea time looks worse. I think back on page 3, when we talk about why these recommendations have happened, it's to push forward with new development. And that we couldn't do before because the zoning wasn't in place. I think that's really important for people who haven't been through all this the last few years. To see that this is building a foundation to go ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That was my point, I wasn't being critical that we caused all this.
Right.
Or that the DCPC caused any of this, but I'm saying that would be I hear people asking me, what's going
Right.
on? And things
Exactly.
worse. It's been
Yeah.
this many years, we bought tea time this many years ago.
nothing's happened.
Nothing's happening,
Right.
nothing's happening, and
Mhm.
want to make sure that's not, this is what has to happen before much else can happen.
Right. Which is what I try to say to my friends, and then their eyes glaze over. But this is so important,
Yeah.
and so maybe we have to, when we're doing the
Yeah.
meetings with the public and even with the select board, talk about this framework being so important for the future.
I'll add to that in the public presentation to talk about that timeline.
Yeah,
Right, that in those intervening years since 2017 has been a tremendous amount of work from you folks, from the tea time committee, from all the other volunteers and staff in town who've been doing all the background work to
So
be able
what you're
to
trying to
break
do-
ground in a planful and purposeful way. And that's taken some time.
yeah.
But it does make
Trying
you,
to avoid is, okay, go ahead and build. We've sat on this long enough, go ahead and build something. And then everyone in town say, why are they letting that go in? We don't want to look at Hyannis. So there's a lot of steps. It's frustrating, I'm sure. And they look at it and say, oh, I wish I could still pick golf balls over there all this time. But I mean, the point being that, once we get something, that's going to be something we like. And you don't just get that by
I think
throwing out the meeting with the dog. Just
I think what would be handy would be, before we get to these meetings, to have a single meeting.
Oh.
With bullets, and that we hand that out.
To
all
say-
on itself, so that when
I didn't hear what you
Just the
said.
talking points,
Oh, yeah,
the talking points to say, this is when we put in the
Yep.
the DCPC in response to a dollar store coming in. Acknowledge that, it's been a long time
Yeah.
coming, and then just have this one, so that all of us are singing from the same,
Mhm.
hymn level.
I mean, these talking points, which could be a little different. Also, I didn't do this yet, but I said. I know there'll be a lot of people who read this because all our reports, I get feedback that people read it, but it's not all. people.
Right.
There's a significant minority who sits home and reads this stuff, and then we need like a frequently asked questions. Why are you
Yes.
doing it? What's happening? Just a question and a short bullet answer. And but talking points might be a little more detailed.
Right, but I
than
don't
just
want,
the
so if
short.
Kevin goes to planning and says, oh, here's what we did, and here's what's gonna happen
Oh,
next week's
he-
charrette meeting, he's gonna have 3 or 4 minutes to talk, and then I might do the same thing at ZBA. I might do that with a group of 20 to 30 people that I see over the next few months. And I think we all sort of stay that the same.
Yep.
Because you'll have 6 or 7 points that are real important to you, as as well as everybody here will have 6
Yep.
or 7 points that they start with. And I think it's important. This went through an election process, so we know how important communication is.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we all talk about the same
Mhm.
6 or 7 points. It might be 30 points we want to talk about, but if we want to get this passed, want to get support, I think we should have to If we can't fit it on one page, you know, this all is great, but like you said, it's a small minority that's gonna read the stuff.
Right.
But I think having that one page, that we're all on the same.
I think that's important also for the select board, planning board, ZBA,
Oh, we leave those things behind, like
Yeah.
candy.
for them, particularly the select board, because they get asked all the time questions, and we need to help them have the ready answers.
Right.
Or why are you doing this? What's this about? Yeah.
30-page document to 100-page documents.
And those same talking points, we haven't talked about it, I'll leave that to you guys, but as we go through the public process and we get to the point where we are, okay, this is what's in the warrant, we'll be doing communication, whether it's social media or on the town website or, you know, so the talking points are going to be really helpful for that too. They have multiple uses to draw those out.
No.
Yeah.
So 1-page talking point
Yep,
followed
yep.
with a multi-page.
All right, back. Getting down to the short strokes here.
Mhm.
Design and performance standards, this is just an introduction of the regulations that are coming.
Mhm.
We didn't. We don't get dropped here. We have to have done as well, the design guidelines are available at www. I'm on page 3.
23,
21.
not 21?
21, I found.
I don't have.
They need to be a little bigger. They need to be a little bigger than the doctor.
Where are your glasses?
I can contact him, but I kind of, and then one here,
Sitting in
okay, full design, okay. You can put in things available, and then the, planning and administrative recommendations. Try to,
Just,
Paul gets a little nervous when I go out and say. More planning capacity, but I'm not saying,
Go ahead.
go ahead,
But seeing as you're talking about that, I think down in the last section, which I would put headings on, and the last section would be town capacity. The second line, not it is believed, the task force believes.
Mhm.
Somebody has to believe,
Yeah.
right? And the same thing in the last sentence, the task force recommends that the town actively lobby.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was one other place. I lost it now, but it was somebody else was gonna recommend something, and I thought it should be it should be an active voice, and it should be the town.
Mhm.
But the town capacity thing, I think, is really important.
and in that very last sentence, it says including required capacity support. I'm not sure there if you're talking about staff capacity, if you're talking about development capacity, if you're talking about technical capacity.
It could be staff intake.
I think staff and technical.
Oh, here it is. It's the paragraph before that. To realize the potential for the trade park, the task force recommends
Yeah.
that the town put in place a master plan.
Mhm. My last comment is on the bibliography.
Yep.
To just be sure that as available, everything has a date on it in terms of the document.
We'll try.
Oh, yeah.
We should those out, but that's a.
Oh,
Suppose it said like town of Burlington 1927.
Oh, those, I'm not worried about those. I'm thinking about the town of the 1 through 6.
Yeah, down at 17, earlier on, I didn't mention it because it's just a little edit, but Oak Bluffs is incorrect again here. So add the S. Oak Bluffs.
Okay.
Oak Oak Bluffs,
I'm sure there's an Oaks
Move
Bluff
that
in
up.
Chicago somewhere.
Movius, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Let's jump there.
Yeah,
Did you say, suggested putting headers on the,
yeah, that last page, page 22, so under 10. After the first paragraph, then have a heading, Northeast Ham Corridor, Homes Trade, and then the next heading, Homes Trade Park, and then town capacity. Just to break it up a
Instead of
little
saying
bit.
word likewise.
Yeah, take a look.
Bullets. Do you think there should be bullets or 10.1, 10?
On page 22,
Just
I'm
subheadings.
thinking of like after the first section, then you have a header.
Right,
It
so
says-
So subheadings, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Northeast Ham Corridor, so people can see it better.
Mhm. And the last paragraph, having a header draws out that we're talking about,
Mhm.
town staff and technical capacity.
Well, seeing as you mentioned that, just consider flipping it so town capacity is first. Cause that's really different from, that's like another underpinning, so it might be good to have that first and then have this,
Well,
the other two.
you can't do the other things unless
That's
you have
right.
the capacity.
Yeah, so that's something to think about.
Thing is, Mary mentioned how, I think a lot of people will start with this document. That it's easy read, it's not read it an hour. And this might be their first deep dive into this project. And then having a map, that's the last page, you actually get pushed up from. People will be looking at this, they'll have a general idea of
Oh, yeah,
what it is.
Yeah.
You know, we all know it. But he copies of that handy and out anywhere.
Mhm.
Should we put, well, we do have a version of it just as we started with the recommendation. The recommendations has a version of it here on page 17. And then I only had it repeated. I just said to Paul, repeat it because I know when I first started this process, I had to keep looking at the map 1,000 times. To keep my head
I
straight.
still do.
Still do. I know, do you? Unless we,
What if you put the map here and start the table of contents here?
And put the map on the back of the front page.
Yeah.
I think
That's what I'm
fast,
saying.
open it up,
Open
Here's
it
the
up and
map.
there's the map.
There's the map on the back.
And then the table of contents becomes the next page.
Because as people are reading it, they don't know there's a map coming up at the end,
Right.
and they're gonna be like, what are we talking
Yeah.
about here? What bracket
Right.
is
I
this?
think you're right.
How many main streets are there? We're talking about Route 6 Main Street or Bracket Street Main Street?
Yeah.
So,
Or is Main
that's your
Street?
table of contents?
I don't think so, because then people see it, they're like, oh, this looks, and then they're gonna reference back.
open the document.
I think it's one of the things in the legal process to keep in mind too, there are a lot of folks who don't know what the EC. SD,
Right.
DCPC, the Northeast Ham Business District,
Right.
if you haven't been involved,
Okay. You can look at your whole life. You know.
you know. More clarification, that's gonna come up, I think, in the public process is,
Mhm.
what are these things and how are they different?
It's one thing for the select board or zoning board, we all know that stuff. But
You got two
assuming it
sheets.
passes all that, you get to the town meeting, and it's like,
Table of contents.
what are they talking about?
Then you turn it and you have the membership and report contributors. And then, then the overview.
Before the over, and anyway, reading the first 4 or 5 pages on that.
Yeah.
So,
I do the table of contents and the membership. And then instead of having the
Yeah.
overview sat on the left, map there. And then the overview.
Yeah.
starts. I actually like chapter studying, right?
So put it
Put it
after,
after table of contents, then membership. And then the map.
right.
All right.
Right.
Any comments on, I know you haven't finalized pictures, you're still looking for pictures, but I, again, reference projects for.
I put in,
size.
I put in some new ones,
Mhm.
last night. So these are for.
Okay.
Feedback, if we think these are good, so this was. Dennis Court, which this actually was front page paper the other day, they
Mhm.
put around on it. So I was trying to find ones that were over 30 feet, the 2.5 and the 39, 3-story, so this one. This one was selected for development for Penrose and Chatham, so this was 2.5 feet with 35.
Mhm.
You pull up all top one here. Under construction, okay, selected for development. That's what I was gonna say.
This one, actually, I found some other ones, so, but. 3 stories, 40, I'm waiting to confirm, I think this is 40 feet, but, it's usually. I found another image from Providence Post, so this was the one that really, when we talked to the developer, they're like, this is 3 7,000 square foot buildings, 39 feet, 3 stories, and this is what penciled out advantageous to get the state, like, streamlined through funding, the
Right,
state subsidies and everything, so this is really where those numbers.
it's real.
So,
And and the state, I told Jackie this, the state also said that they went from RFP to groundbreaking in 3 years, which was record breaking. And they said the reasons why was this penciled in a way that was. The state's actually got a sensitivity now because there's so much development demand for affordable housing. They want projects of this scale.
Right,
They really, this was like, they said it was a sweet spot, like it's 65 units. The ones that come in at 150, like, take too much of the tax credit. I'm sure the politics of having to spread money around the state is driving some of that. There was a second one.
I would just add the number of units. That's the first question people are gonna have is.
Yeah.
How many units are in each of those buildings?
Who's the developer on that?
Community buildings.
so this one. For our zoning, if you wanted to do this exact project, it would have to be. Limited commercial. Like just as is, the 3 buildings, they limited, this is like the back.
Right.
Back. Behind. Atlantic Oaks, if they convert it into something, or the back,
Right.
you know.
Could this could be.
Or transition.
Yeah.
commercial, But you'd have to have. Where the front is.
You have to the front, yeah.
But just as this standalone, like
Mhm.
exactly what they did, it would work in those areas, that's why we set. on
Right,
in
We set it-
tables, when you go through it. Okay, I can
Right.
do this, but only here, if you want to do elements of this on tea time, you have to have
Mhm.
the other components. So smaller front people.
So let me ask a question though, if Bistro 41, someone came in and bought that property, so we'll take down that restaurant. We want them to bring commercial frontage, top of the shop. Does this qualify for the back? You know, they've got 100 feet back. Can they put up something like this?
Yes, you
Yes.
could do a. And. Yes, you could do that, and you don't necessarily in the. double check Chart, but. You don't, the core commercial, you don't do front. The other ones you don't necessarily have to do in front of the building, as long as it's set back. Because that was one, we did away with having, you could do one,
Mhm.
all you want to do is one
One.
7,000 square foot building. We made it so you can do that without having to.
Right.
But obviously, all the design requirements,
It has to be.
break down the mass, it has to be set back. Parking the back, all that stuff.
I think that's a critical point, maybe this is going back to your talking point, and someone pushes back at you. The current zoning says you can have up to an 8,000 square foot building. But in order to get that, you have to build like 4,500 square feet in front. Like, we have this hard requirement that we want a smaller building in front, and you have to build a smaller building to get a bigger. And that was specifically targeted towards, we understood, formula businesses who want to come in with a box. And we're saying, no, you can't do that. So we're actually, well, if you can't go to 8,000, we made it 7,000, so we lowered that. But we took a lot of burden off you by saying, You don't have to build a whole other building.
That's all, but also this is in the bylaw, this section. Here are the ways you could break up, you gotta break up the massing lots, but you could still make it read like a smaller, play with massing.
Mhm.
That's what these things in the bylaw, it's got to do. So you're gonna do 7,000 square foot building. But here's how you break it up. The facade, articulation, massing. forms. So what did I ask? The new ones I added, so this was from, this was selected for development at the Governor Prince.
Oh, that's already been selected.
Mhm.
So this is way bigger than what we would allow.
Yeah.
But it's just, this is the project, so. You could do probably half of this.
I was gonna say cut it in half and you could-
But this is a 39.6 foot high build, well, they're using the slope, so.
I think if you're putting this picture in, you should put a footnote in there saying. Exactly, what you just said, but this is too big, This particular scale wouldn't be allowed in Eastham.
Or
Yes.
could you take the bottom picture and just cut it in half?
I did that, actually, I went back and forth, I have one, I just cut her off, I showed half it, and I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're referencing it saying that this is the Governor Prince site only.
Because someone
I didn't
could
want,
go
I didn't want someone. to
Yeah.
get- Yeah, I didn't want to give false.
Right, you're right. I agree.
Put some, it's really, purpose is to show.
The setbacks in the form. And those now, this is. Be 1.3 feet high
Say again?
from the slope, when you look at the back slope.
Oh.
Added that one, and then, well, so that site has a number of different building sites,
Mhm.
building types, so that's part of it. This is gonna be another one that is 3 stories, 36 feet,
Mhm.
and it's 2 stories and 32 feet. And put in some renderings there.
Mhm.
So this kind of shows them. And actually, there's another one. here,
Oh, it's
another one
huge.
for single
It's
family.
wonderful.
Because it's BOA, hack,
Mhm.
and habitat.
Right.
It's gonna be some single family.
They got the Governor Prince.
So I just found those last night, yeah. Up to over
Mhm.
35 feet.
We have 25 minutes left. Let's, again, we'll make all these edits. And let's, we're running out of time here. You know, again, it's Christmas. I mean, everything we've done here, is this, will be on Tuesday? Can we go through and clean this up and circulate the draft, say by Friday this week? Okay, so we'll get, so then people raise their hands for the last time and say, the typo
Yeah.
or I have a concern. If anyone ever has a big concern, we'll get on the phone and have a conversation, but, so let's shoot for this Friday. And just in terms of the workshop, what I was talking to Paul about is getting some binders, nice looking binders, where you can put a cover in there. And literally have sort of 3 dividers where we have the record, we have the bylaw, we have the design guidelines, and so for the planning boards and the select board, they have that. And then we just have this, and we should talk about.
Mhm.
So. We've gone through this.
Excellent job, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you.
really, really good,
Thank you.
you guys.
Yeah. Good teamwork, but a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Late nights.
Who's the right one? Oh,
The right lane?
I think so.
Yeah,
Mary did that.
Thank you.
It is, I agree. The length is such that it's succinct there's not a lot of wasted space in there at all,
Right.
but it's thick enough that people say, "Hey, a lot of work with this."
Mhm.
And you feel
It's
that,
not referencing sources and stuff like that. It's really a nice presentation. At the end of it, you don't feel exhausted after reading it. It's just like, what's that?
Okay. The bylaw and the design guidelines. We've gone through these multiple times. Any last concern? Cleaning stuff up?
No.
Any last notes?
So with the definitions, this is just a little thing. But it has to do with the trailer park, mobile home park. Some places it's under M, and some places trailer is still under T. But it's listed as M. So just to bring everything up to M. Was that clear? Right.
All of these, so we weren't proposing to change the definition other than what I gave you the whole definition section. just
Right.
to paint it clear,
Easier.
so you can see all of them.
But
I understand what you're saying, but we weren't gonna change.
We weren't making
So-
changes in that section.
okay,
The only things we're changing in the definitions are anything that's in the blue text or adding it.
Okay. all right,
I know what you're saying. We can do that, like,
later.
that's like a housekeeping thing that
Yeah.
let's do that next year if we wanna like prove that, but
Okay,
yeah, so
I did have a question on page 29. Um, Getting where it is now, but for the restaurant, maximum parking. Restaurants, you have one spot for one seat. Max.
This came, well, a lot of the details here. If they weren't,
yeah,
they weren't in blue, they were already there,
that's
right?
existing again.
And the only other thing I would say is that whenever Ted looked at the existing, he would always come up with, here's what the better practices and practices, so he didn't suggest.
Yeah, he thought these were good,
Good.
but.
I also thought a lot of Ted stuff came from slightly more urban, like suburban environments. You know, we're
What's
fairly
suburban?
rural towns. I know if I meet two other couples for dinner tonight, we're coming in 3,000, that's 3,000 seats. Very, that's where we live, you know.
But when we have our walkable distance, you're
Right.
walk to the district and then walk back.
Well-
Yeah, and if we're real successful, 20% of the population will be walking to the investment. That's
And hopefully-
Right.
They're
30 years
driving
from now.
EV cars.
Driving EV cars that they get charged. Hey, I'm
Well-
gonna move into the district.
So
The
the commission staff's gonna be reviewing this too. Clients with BC, but also, ask them to double check.
Because those,
If they think that.
I think it's the same, it's the minimum, you know, the minimum 1 for 4, and the max 1 for 4, and about that space.
yeah, but
We're gonna be saying, you know, I can only make money 10 weeks out of the year, and you're not letting me park there.
Why don't we, you wanna circle that and see if we pass the commission, or do you wanna just?
well, the minimum maximum are the same. Is that what,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Issues, I'm okay having a minimum, you know,
Yeah.
somebody's opening up something saying, oh, I'm okay with having.
Yeah.
The maximum. Just think this up when you go out to dinner with other people. You're meeting at the restaurant,
Mm. I pick them up.
what's that?
I pick them up.
That's good for you.
Right,
But at best case.
no, I know.
30 years from now.
Yeah.
We're still gonna be hard.
Okay,
I mean, I would be totally comfortable making 2 spaces for 4 seats, but I mean, without randomly doing this, do you wanna just? Confirm with the big population?
I mean, well, I can tell, I mean, this is what.
They-
they-
Right.
yeah.
We are as rural as they we are the most rural town that the commission deals with, we're more rural than. Everything that Ted deals with, you know, they're not naming all Plymouth.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, if we wanna change it, we change it to two, there's not a
Oh, that's
lot of,
fine.
That's fine,
research to be done.
make it two. Okay.
Government does move fast.
20 years from now, when we pull into a parking lot, we get the last spot available.
Right.
All right, any other comments or
Couple
questions? No.
of things. On page 36, very top, it's a diagram question again. We're talking about, it's got a sketch there of what's essentially a 4-story building. And it does have the footnote, 4-story building shown for illustrative purposes only. I guess I just get concerned that someone's gonna look at that and freak. They don't see the footnote, they're gonna see 4-story, that's too big. I mean, I don't know what else you would say in the footnote. I guess what I'm looking for, perfect world, would be to just lop off one of those floors, because I mean, it tells you the different parts of the building, the ridge, dormer window, bracket, bay window, storefront lighting, blah, blah, blah. If you took off the second floor, or took off the third floor, it's now a 3-story building. No one can misinterpret. You don't need footnote, but I don't know how easy it is to find the right sketch to insert it. I don't want to cause trouble. I
Find
just,
something,
and
I'm sure there's something up there.
okay, and the last one I had is maybe in the form of a question, but I think it's a numbering issue. On page 40. It's passed last night. Okay, in the paragraph entitled Complete Street Standards, it's 3.8.5.5.12. Rattle that off. Under number
You
1,
did.
it says the planning board. Sorry,
Sorry, what page
the
was
page is 40.
39.
Okay, my copy says 40.
Okay.
It says number 1, the planning board may waive requirements of particular street type or apply another street type when it finds that certain requirements of figure 8.2 are either practically infeasible, yada, yada, yada. And it's followed by figure 3.18.
Yeah, that's,
So
yeah.
maybe it's
Typo
8.2 is referring to something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else?
I still have my location of electric charging stations have to be closest to the building entrance. I'm not sure why we do that.
Oh,
But for residential,
we were supposed to change that.
residential, I'm good with it, but for commercial,
What page are you on?
if I have, I'm looking at my notes that I wrote down. Maybe page 10?
Yeah, no, we had agreed that that should be in there, so that we just can't pitch that in.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a farm document, my notes are based on the soft copy.
Right, right,
So I'm like, that's not there.
right.
It's like,
I know, I'm like, I know it was dark and I was screwed like. reading on the computer. Page good.
Something. 0.4 alternative fuel vehicles. Is that where it was, Matt?
Yes. All right. thanks.
Right.
The closest to primary entrance should be.
And we making a distinction between commercial buildings and residential. In my view, the more parking, electric parking for residential, there is no, I think it's 20-30%.
I don't know if we feel the need that EVs have been put. Closest to the building,
In front of a convenience store, like
Yeah.
who's going in?
but even, I mean, the.
Even residential. Yeah.
Residential, it's like, as long as they're there.
Oh, location, yes.
Yeah,
I'm saying, but the existing at all, like, so the location of residential, they should be as convenient as possible. but I still have the argument, who's going into a restaurant charging their car? Some will. And they're gonna be happy to walk the extra 30 feet. Because they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm driving to Boston after dinner, I'll be plugging my
Yeah.
car, that's great, but they don't have to be, that spot doesn't have to be reserved, so.
No, I think we should take. If you, shall we reserve, yeah, we just took that one.
Yeah, that's good.
So we're good.
So containing over 50 times.
Well,
That sort of gets all the small, that gets the convenience store on the front.
and this may be a pushback with the commission because they want 20%.
Right.
And we proposed 10, so this was our comeback at 15. So we'll see. How they play with that.
Mhm.
You said you're one of them.
On page 41, we talked about, building materials, on page 41 on the. Is vinyl siding on buildings. Okay, is that a? So, fair.
Typically, building material.
I think you passed it.
Side composition standards on, well. Structural materials such as brick, stone, flatbird, shingles are preferred in CSD. Planning may also consider alternative building materials such as glass, metal blocks, or skin panels, and other siding materials. That's the key, yeah, other siding materials. You're sort of saying, here's what we'd like you to use, we'll also consider this, and then you say other siding materials, sort of opens up the window. And disqualify, not to
You
disqualify.
don't want
it
it, you're
says
gonna say.
You can use, we want you to use this, or this, or anything else.
Yeah, no,
So-
I would, I think if we're trying to enforce some of these natural traditional materials, violence.
Right.
And I think that goes to environmental side of,
Yeah.
of the project, and what I would say is that we could allow things like vinyl siding within the design process, but that has to be a concession that we make. You know, as a planning committee. I think that's gonna be a tool that we use, like, so if you say, if the housing comes in and says, well, we want to build 75 houses, but we're going to build 62, then we as a town could say, all right, we're gonna allow you to do vinyl on the sides and the backs, or whatever. You know, you can negotiate that as a developer, but we don't. To me, it's about pricing it.
Yeah.
Or vinyl everywhere.
So I that would be something. Vinyl siding.
The materials must be used in ways that, siding is, it looks like flatbeds from when you go by at 40 miles an hour.
So. What's the recommendation to take other siding materials out and then open? Because we're only saying IE. Not, is the notion that if we highlight it. People are just gonna default to vinyl. As opposed to leaving it sort of in the back pocket that the board can consider.
If we put it in and we say it's prohibited, then the planning board can never approve it. If we leave it unspoken and take the other siding materials out, the planning board
By the way, it's just a planning, they also consider. The planning board. So I think when you say the planning board. Consider alternative materials such as glass. I think that might be good.
Mhm.
So out here, where I would, we could. We could. Put this in just like a basic charge that says that these are the materials permitted, prohibited, or by special permit or something. It's like.
Do you want to create a whole special permit process just for on the siding side of things?
Or it doesn't have to be special, but I mean, just like we were saying, like vinyl siding. You gotta figure out how to word it, but it would be at discretion of planning board, but it's just having.
Yeah. Yeah, or even say vinyl, if you're gonna use vinyl on the front facades. So if you know, if we don't want to price ourselves out with regulations. But you could say something, you could be a little bit softer and say, if the vinyl is gonna be used on the front side or street facing the side, use approval of planning. And then, when they do whatever.
What if you, I mean, a lot of Cape homes have clapboard fronts and vinyl three sides. That happens a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, but I'm saying, you were saying if you want vinyl in the front, and I'm asking from a design point of view, if you want these traditional materials. Could we say the front facing, the street facing facade must be in a traditional material and the planning board would consider. Vinyl on the other sides. I mean, that happens all the time.
I know, I'm just kidding, yeah. Either way, we're on a point here that we've
Yeah.
put an agreement
Yeah.
that we don't wanna have a carte blanche where they can just put vinyl anywhere, and we're like, no.
Yeah, I think that if it's on the three sides with the front is natural, that's fine. But it's how you say it, that if you say it's okay to have vinyl on the back, or even if you're saying, planning board, kind
So
of
you
prove
could-
that. It's almost like you're highlighting, oh, there's an option.
So maybe if you want to just be a little ambiguous and say, here's the
Yeah.
preferred. And give the planning board the ability to consider, I think you say it's the alternative.
I mean, we could do that, but. I also think the whole point of the form-based code is to just put it in there so that there is not.
Mhm.
So that's what I was saying, if we want to decide, like, put it into a chart, like, these are the, if you're doing these things, then we could have materials permitted, absolutely prohibited, and then by planning board approval,
Mhm.
which doesn't tie, it's just not special permit, it's just if you're gonna use vinyl siding.
It has to be a standard
And
for
that
the
part
plan-
can be ambiguous, like, you're not saying you have to go through, it's just like, this whole thing may not even need any approval. It's just a small thing you may. But if you do this alternate material, he's gonna have to go in. Get. That could be
It could be a way,
but that's the whole thing that. I think it's cleaner just to communicate.
yeah, but planning board, I think, needs to have some standard to go by as to when they would waive it or allow it or whatever. As the example that Carolyn's saying is, okay, if you're gonna get 72 units, but if you can do vinyl, if you can't do vinyl, we're going to do 62. We don't want to discourage the additional units, but I'm not sure there's any other examples that would be applicable. It's cost saving things, you want to get a few more units out of it, residential units, great. Planning board should have that discretion, but if it's just someone trying to save money and there's no gain to the town as a result of it,
And I
then.
think the planning board, we're gonna trust the planning board with this, where they could say, in the case of housing, we're gonna allow more of this to happen because. It's further from the street and so forth, but if you're building a. Restaurant right out there on the street, you don't wanna see it, vinyl up front here, so
Yeah, you could tie it to how, if it's a hardship, demonstrated hardship.
Yeah.
Based on
Financial hardship.
financial hardship related to the
Housing.
housing. It's mixed use, but they want to
Yeah.
use the housing.
Then the planning board can
Has the
allow it, but
approve
Yeah.
Like that.
alternate.
that's good. That's good.
So do we want to
And,
do?
and continue that gives teeth for the planning board. So not to get sued by, a formula business who comes in and wants to do vinyl.
Vinyl all the way.
But, and if the specificity is vinyl is allowed, if it's, I'm just saying that this is not the language, if there's if the use will,
For housing components.
housing components that to enhance the financial feasibility of the development. But we're putting the parameter in there.
Yeah.
As opposed to being wide open.
Do you want to do this chart idea? Where these?
Do you really want to get into a chart of this?
Sometimes the
Well,
chart's easier to understand.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, if we're in agreement that you want to have a list, or if you want to have a things specified, these are permitted, prohibited
Yeah.
by special permission. right?
Yeah.
Special permission, not
So
permit.
Rather
Special,
than have this,
yeah.
rather than have this paragraph,
Okay.
like those things just gonna be whatever for
Yeah.
columns, those are all approved, permitted. I guess, is there other vinyl? We need anything in there that's strictly probably.
Well, vinyl unless.
We-
vinyl
that's-
is covered, but it's that-
Vinyl on front facades.
This is where it intersects with the design guideline.
To.
Yeah.
Coordinate that.
And
We can have
Or
language,
should this just be in the design guidelines?
well,
I know this is zoning about.
we can have, in the design guidelines is where we can have a paragraph that explains the rationale. Why
Right.
we're gonna allow them. But
so here, the prohibited column would say vinyl on any front facing facade,
As a minimum, I'd like to see that.
right?
Street
I think,
face.
I think that's what we're saying. And then by special permission, not permit, vinyl on side facades for housing projects.
But what as Mary was talking about, if it's a, like it's financial.
Yeah.
Hmm?
But with
Right.
Mary's word.
With,
she had
for
about
financial.
Financial hardship.
Right.
You know, like, it's especially when you do backfilling for housing, wouldn't bother me that. The other thing I didn't see in here is anything about, I have a pet peeve. Is the solid vinyl fencing, you know, all the power lights reflect off of these types of fences, solid. white
And it just
vinyl.
encourages kids with
And-
magic markers to
And
doodle.
none of that, but it's just ugly even when it's new.
Yeah, yeah, it's uglier when it's
You feel
new
like
because it's
it's shiny
shinier.
off, it doesn't feel natural, and you know, this beautiful stuff, and
If you're in Yarmouth, drive to the historic district, I said this to policy, we'll get back to the residential district. They have a historic district, they have all these cute little historic houses. And they did a development, a subdivision on one side of it. And so you're going down the historic road. And they put a massive, no landscaping in front of it, white vinyl fence that goes from east to quarter of a mile. And I'm like, I'm driving down there, I'm looking quaint, and then I see this wall of white shiny vinyl, and I said, oh, this is hard. And we're starting to get that,
oh, yeah,
it's starting to pop up.
that's.
Mm.
So are you saying that we need a fencing component?
I would say any solid panel fencing should be a natural appearance.
Yes, that's the.
I'm okay with the, you know, like the white.
Is that in
like
the,
a white picket
is that
fence.
in the bylaw or the design?
Perfect vinyl.
Yeah, that's
Is
the
the
most I would
benefit-
allow.
Is the benefit of the white picket, no maintenance, makes sense, and
Yeah.
it looks great, so.
Is that a bylaw statement or a design guideline?
Bylaw makes it stronger.
I know. I'm just asking. We don't have a paragraph on fencing, I don't think.
Well, landscape buffers, we have buffer.
Yeah.
With fencing.
Are you specifying that for the frontage or for the entire property?
Well, this should
Entire
be-
property.
I'm saying that it's.
Entire property is, there's.
I think that it's probably easy.
Well, some larger housing developments will have fencing in the back.
Yeah, but what if all of a sudden someone decides to put, you know, they have a series of problems, they decide to put 12 of these, you know, they separate every backyard on the solid vinyl wall.
You just don't want it. Just don't.
You know, they can put in a cedar fencing, something that's gonna age and call it this. Anyway, I don't have agreement that we all hate it. And it is creeping up, I hate seeing it,
Mhm,
and as more people put in before.
mhm. I actually put in white vinyl and a couple little railings, I had to spec the non-shiny stuff.
Oh, they have.
Oh, and I paid twice, I only did it for twice as much. Oh, it's like, so not to shine, just to have the appearance of what it's expensive.
So we can put in, we have a section. Resident, well, this is for. This is for areas that you're buying
Mhm.
residential. We can. It's put it in this,
You would put in that, put a global sentence in that one.
so that would be fencing, any solid fencing.
Solid panel fencing.
Solid panel fencing shall be natural materials.
Now people can thank you for that extra parking space and no like.
Fences all decrepit, broken down. Yeah, that would be.
You're welcome.
All right, are we good? It's 12 o'clock and are people running out? We get a
Okay.
little bit. Was there anything in the design guidelines that,
The design guidelines are still very much in draft form. That's when you get to which pictures are where and
from a picture point of view?
formatting, yeah.
And,
So
and,
I had thrown everything in a PowerPoint because I was having trouble with it to Jack, get it back into Word documents, we can edit it, but we're still looking for. You know, anywhere where we're finding better graphics or images, we'll swap in and then probably put this document into like Canva or the thing I did the report in, just so we can do better layouts and stuff with that. Want to make sure the content is closer with the content.
The print ratio is up, that's why. I rented it like
yeah,
75%. We just brought one printed copy.
no, I'm just saying, I had trouble trying to figure out how to print it. It came out looking weird.
Yeah, my version did too.
So
Small like that?
Yeah.
I'll
I guess
flicker it
it's
on.
sometimes on the track sheet. Ron does that because we have comments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did anyone have any substantive questions about this?
no,
So we're looking at it. Yes, I'm feeling,
All I read design.
I'm feeling a little less anxious about this one, just given. It's a little more fluid in the sense of, okay, if our commission doesn't.
Right.
approve it, and
And it'll align with, as you finished your updates with the actual zoning.
right,
We'll go back and align it, make sure it's the
Yes.
same language.
And this can get fixed in August. On a monthly basis.
And we actually
And-
have a hearing.
and we may. I don't know, that document may get more comments. Like in the various meetings that we could then incorporate.
Yeah.
Before we finalize it.
Yeah.
Because we're planning to have, I think this is a correct statement, one last meeting after the town meeting, is that right? Did I remember that?
Well, we gotta talk about all our meetings.
Oh, okay, all right.
So, all right,
And feel free to, if you're reading through that carefully,
you just gotta.
The word town.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's capitalized and sometimes it's not. Bylaw, sometimes yes, sometimes not. Just decide what the standard is
It
that you
should
want
be
to use.
capitalized.
I think it should be, but, and
Carolyn, I'll send you the comments I did last night. So you can.
Did a lot of.
yeah, I'm, that was my one comment. Well, my second, I have one more. Paul hears me say this all the time, readability. Looking at, particularly in the report, not the others. Just being sure that looking for long sentences, breaking them up. We want to make this as readable as possible for people who've not read it. And again, Paul hears me talk all the time about writing things at the 8th, 9th grade reading level so that people in general can understand it. We can't possibly do this at that level, but just look for those kinds of options that you can make it more readable.
Yeah, it's that tool. on Word.
Yeah, the flush test, do you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Next report we do, we'll just.
I can show you.
Put all concepts in and hit out.
I sent.
Hey, I, no, I.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I can show you how to do that, Jackie, if you want.
All right.
It checks for those things.
Jackie, what's your email address?
She was on the email that Paul just sent out to
Okay.
us.
I understand.
Okay, got it. All right.
okay. So guys, let's just talk a little bit about schedule. We have this outline here, a couple dates. We're finalizing, so Paul can update this. We should probably make sure we have a task force meeting scheduled every month. From January, February, March, even April. Just so we have a placeholder, and it'll kind of changes. Tuesdays has tended to be a good day because it doesn't conflict with any of the other boards. The evening is a problem. So I'm totally fine. I mean, are we good to say let's pick some Tuesdays and do 10 to 12 on my hour point of view, if that work? For people
in general.
in general,
As long as they're rainy, days like.
rainy crappy days like this, that's my.
It's a good beach day, we have to rethink it.
So let's look at January, we get at least January, February, March on the calendar. We're gonna be at our workshop on the 21st. Do we want to meet the week, well, let me say, one other thing we need to do, we have to plug this in. I thought maybe we could do it in January. We've lost membership. One of the things we also have to do is do a check-in during this period, which says, how do people feel, personal commitments to want to continue to move on? What are some of the topics? Paul has identified some topics in his strategic plan. So we have to sort of flesh out what we might want to do. Do you have the personal commitment to do it? And we have to recruit some additional members. And one of the things I've said to the governance committee is I wanted to work with all of you to really do a skill set analysis. I mean, we have representatives of different boards, but when this was originally started, they wanted someone with real estate experience, architectural experience, construction experience. I can think of obviously business experience. What's the other one? Architectural. I don't know. What I'm saying is, we need to think about, do a check-in about how we're organized, what we might want to do in the coming year. And then what is the skill sets we need? And the only reason I wanted to have that discussion is we can then begin to work on the governance board around improvement and things like that. So. Now. We could, one thought I had is before the women's track, we could have that sort of future discussion in January. Maybe even if we didn't finalize it, we can flesh it out a little bit. And keep moving. So that might have us meeting, the 14th of January, people in town. That's the week before the workshop. 10 to 12 on January 14th.
Fine.
14. 10 to 12. Task. And we'll have the meeting on the 21st. And we probably want to have something early, and then we might actually have 2 or 3 of those. So, okay, workshop on the 21st, and then get into February. We have a conservation commission meeting on the 11th.
How soon after the workshop do you want us to meet to make any immediate changes?
Well, I was thinking we get through the workshop, maybe the board of health. Maybe the finance committee.
Okay.
Get those inputs, that gets us to February 6th, and then we have a meeting.
Is everybody here gonna be able to go on the first workshop?
Mhm.
Yes, so,
I'm
people,
away.
You're away.
Well, if there's anything like, we'll have a quorum, so if there's anything like, clearly that.
We probably-
Say, yeah, let's just change that based on that. Take care of some of that stuff.
Oh, week first, on the 21st, we could.
So we need to publish a meeting.
do five.
Yeah, we gotta post the meeting.
Yeah.
Cause it's all the boards are technically meeting,
Right.
so we can post the agenda and just put votes, maybe take.
So we could potentially do votes that day, if we wanted to stay. And then. Yes, okay.
Mhm.
So then we get up to, February, we've got everything from, I think the 3rd doesn't get us. We're after the 6th, we've had finance and health workshop, so. The 11th of February, does that work for people, 10 to 12, 11? All you good,
Task force again.
task force, 10 to 12 on February 11th?
Then we have the Cape Cod Commission on the 27th. That will be a big one. If we need to do anything, 'cause they will give us, they don't like certain things.
What's that meeting gonna go?
So we should know,
We should
before that, because we'll have the commission staff. That's.
Where does the Cape Cod Commission, is that in Barnstable? Is it in Barnstable?
Yeah. Well, it's coming.
And who do you expect to be in attendance of that? People all of us there, or like all of us there, or anybody, or nobody there?
And I would like as many members of the task force to come to as many public meetings as possible, but not like, you know, I don't want to kill people if they,
Don't cancel your vacation,
no, don't get too impatient.
but we're all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Don't
absolutely.
push your flight back. Don't cancel.
Right,
So Cape Cod Commission's 3 p.m. So
Isn't 3 p.m. on the 27th? Maybe.
that's what it
That's
says.
what it says.
Wait. Sorry.
Okay. So before the select board and the planning board act, I can get out the Cape Cod Commission and he's gonna meeting. Speaking of the task force meeting March 11th.
You have the select board on March 3rd.
Well, the 3rd or the 20th, and I've been lobbying Paul to make it the 20th.
I'm pretty sure we can get a 20.
Because I think it's awkward to have the plan, to have the. They're voting to put it on the warrant. If the
Right.
planning board hasn't had their hearings. Properly for the horse, so. But. I mean, we don't have to do it March 11th, we could go right after planning board. If they're meeting on the 19th, the week after that is the 25th. But then it's after the select board, so it's a little academic, I don't know. What do you think about the 11th?
It's okay.
11, 10 to 12? 10 to 4, okay. Let's see where we go from there. I mean, we get these penciled in, obviously, if we don't need them, we'll do them via Zoom or something, we'll do that. And then we'll get all these other meetings, so. Can I just ask it, are people, I know Bob runs last year. Does he go to Denison, Mark, is that his thing? He goes for a whole month.
yeah, he spent the month at Barnshop.
Yeah. He's gonna miss,
Florida line.
he's gonna miss most of this. We'll probably Zoom certain things. Anybody got any out of town vacation that's gonna take them off for a long period of time?
Not during these months.
Sometime, well, yeah, sometime in April or May,
I'm gonna be out the first
somewhere
week
in
of
Ireland. A couple of weeks, couple of months.
couple months. Ooh.
Potentially, what's going on this time? About a minute.
Okay,
All right, so we got 3 dates. When we reconvene in January, I'll work, again, I know it seems crazy, but by the time we get to town meeting. My experience with this group is we are so exhausted from working so hard that people want the summer break.
Mhm.
And so I'd like to do some of our long-term planning ahead of time. We need to start working on recruitment and
Mhm.
even queuing up if we want to do the following fall, so.
Right.
Is that, okay,
So Paul, will you republish this with these new dates, please? Thank you.
I'll confirm March.
then we can get more. put in.
Oh,
Okay.
that's good, so you put the task force meetings in. It's going to be-
Okay, so we talked about meeting process. What else? What else?
ADU? On the agenda, so we're gonna talk about ADUs.
I just put it on there, so I'll just, the state has come out with regulations. There's still more questions, town council's looking at the regulations, so she's gonna get back to me with an assessment of. What she thinks needs to be changed, if there's anything beyond the draft that last year, but, I anticipate it's definitely some of the housekeeping things, some definitions. And the minimum ADU size we're gonna change, and we have to figure out how to handle special permits in the seashore district, so the whole crux of this whole legislation is that we don't require special permits for.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's probably the stickiest thing to figure out.
There's a huge debate with the Berkeley planning board, that they want to put an ADU in the city.
Right,
Have you followed that at all?
Yeah.
Did they go there already?
I think that was,
That was
talking
the
about the
debate.
same case, I think was already.
So those are the. Those are the items we gotta make sure we cleaned up. There's some other things we can talk about this in trust. There's some other. Things that we could do to the bylaw that are more like. Voluntary policy based things about do we want to allow these units to be. Condo, so you can sell off the ADU and, you know, there's discussions on both sides of that.
Mhm.
But my recommendation is that, you know, do that because we don't have the time, those
Right.
are things we should discuss.
Super state requirement.
No, there's no,
No.
this is. just,
Unrelated.
Unrelated, but. It's coming to the surface, people are talking about these things because some towns are doing it bylaws for the first time, so. They're looking at these things, right now, we prohibit. Breaking them, they have to be
Mhm.
principal. So that's just, there's a couple of
Carol,
things.
is there a reason to allow people to sell them off as condos? Is there a benefit?
There can be benefit from the point of view of the person who's building the ADU, you get your investment back. It, in some situations makes financing easier if that's your business plan, is that what you're going to do, as opposed to renting it? And because you get return on your investment faster. And the ADU itself being the size that it is creates home ownership opportunity at a much lower price point. So there's some good reasons to do it, but there are also some reasons not to do it.
Basically, blow out. Zoning.
Right. I'm just saying we,
But I just
Yeah.
want to get the other side.
yeah, that's exactly the point, that there are other sides too, but those are sort of the pro sides that have been surfacing up.
So what if when we meet in January, I know I want to talk about our structural process, and we can do that for like a good hour. And by that point, we will have the download from Carolyn about ADU and whether, you know, there's some minimum things we have to do just to be in compliance with the new law.
Right.
Just he calls it cleanup. And then that could be part of our future discussion as to whether we want to go back next year and really look at the ADU in terms of much broader concept.
Yeah.
I think the one concept that I was concerned about was we have a requirement that it be year-round rental. And what Paula said is they've not addressed that in the regulations,
Mhm.
except if you look at it in the reverse, they're prohibiting short-term rentals. So in that case, you're either a long-term rental or an owner occupied. I don't know.
Well,
You have the
there's the
option.
31 day, sometimes like 31 day. limit.
So there's the option. There's the option to prohibit if you want to, and then. The short-term rental go by what the state definition of short-term rental is.
What's that definition now?
I'll double check, I think it specifies that
31 days.
so if we do that, it would be. So that's the customer count.
Right.
It'd be like, you prohibited short-term rentals as defined under the state bylaw. Question if we had some other definition, of short-term bylaw,
Could we,
do that,
Right.
which I think we can, but. It doesn't allow you. It doesn't allow you to require. Occupancy. So right now. Our bylaw says, you do the ADU. You either have to live in the ADU. Rent it here,
Mhm.
you have an option, I think we have to. Get rid of that. But I think it results in something which could be given short-term rentals and the thing left to do is you can put it yourself or rent it. I just think it's. Our bylaw, I think it's better because it gives people language that's intended to give understand flexibility,
right.
but just, I don't think I don't think it will cause that issue. The other part of that is the occupancy. A lot of bylaws require that you own the property, you build the ADU, you have to also live on the property, which you don't allow that anymore, so.
We don't require,
Bylaw, yeah, the new state law was getting rid of that, it's basically it could be an investor owner, Florida, whatever. We allow that already, so that's. the problem. We want to encourage people to. Maybe even.
build.
So, yeah, there's 3 or 4 housekeeping things that we have to square away and then we discuss.
Because when we get into like Northeast Hampton, there's an awful lot of these small cottages on, they hear that people else.
Mhm.
All being brought, investor could buy it and say, oh, buy this, and double up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, and then, so. The new laws would allow 1 ADU by right. If someone wants an additional ADU. would require somebody to permit you for that.
1 ADU per lot.
I'm sorry,
No,
1 ADU per.
Owner or per lot.
Per primary building.
per-
So I could, all right, so as an investor, I could buy 3 cottages on Upper Town. And put 2 more ADUs, I could all the ADUs I want, I'd be limited for Airbnb licenses, but I could just start buying properties and plunking ADUs down
On each one.
and turn every 3, double all my.
Well,
You know, you have to have it with the print, so this says. You're entitled by right to have 1 ADU. On a lot, in principle law.
Principal.
Right now, our bylaw says. You have an ADU. 1 per each principal dwelling, so if you have a duplex, the way we've been interpreting that is if you have a duplex, you actually have 2 ADUs by right.
Mhm.
But what the new state law says is like, if you. Question. So you can change that. if you want.
Right.
But what the states say is, by right. Get 1 principal dwelling in, you can have 1 ADU. If someone wants to do additional ADUs, the town can impose a special permit.
Mhm.
But you always need a principal. I'm not sure.
So the answer to your question is yes.
That doesn't have to be on occupant.
No.
So I'm getting it, I could buy a house. Rent it full time. BDU decided Airbnb. And
Yeah.
From
Mhm.
Florida, right?
Yes.
You can do that.
And you can do that twice. You get 2 Airbnb units. But then you can keep buying.
Only if I want Airbnb, if I want to rent.
If you want to rent it year round.
Which is what the intent
The
is.
intent is, yeah.
And some,
So it feels like.
And but you still have to meet the Board of Health requirements. For septic.
Septic.
oh, yeah,
So why don't we do this? Why don't we make that first January meeting? Let's make the assumption. We'll get clarity about the state law
Mhm.
and clarity on the legal thing with the calendar, which is waiting for any day now. And we'll make the January meeting, we'll do ADU and then we'll do future planning.
I think it's good because we will need to include any ADU changes in the planning board and the select board and the finance committee. We would need to do that,
the ADU change is gonna.
Yeah.
right? The ones that are required by
Yeah,
this
and so
state
if
change,
we're gonna- if we
state law.
come in with something, even at the workshop, we have to mention that. I mean, we don't have
Right.
to go into a detailed briefing, but we need to say that this will also be presented to the planning board and select board.
Right. That we're doing the housekeeping of making our bylaw meet the new state law.
All right, good. Anything else?
You want to approve minutes
Yes.
from the November 19th meeting? I've emailed them out last night. Yep, I don't know if you saw them.
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. If I don't hear any other business? Hearing no other business, I make a motion to adjourn.
adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.